The space around the Calrix jump gate burned with weapons fire. Massive ships from two different alien races fought each other with rage that had lasted for 30 years. The Vryn swarm sent wave after wave of their insect-like fighters against the heavy cruisers of the Chromath Empire. Reptilian commanders shouted orders as their ships fired plasma, cannons that turned smaller vessels into clouds of metal and flesh. Commander Zekthar of the UA. Chromath watched his tactical display with cold satisfaction. His fleet was winning today. 3 Vryn carriers had already been destroyed, their crews of thousands scattered into the void. He allowed himself a moment of pride before turning back to the battle. Then every sensor on every ship began screaming warnings. Something was coming through space from a direction that had no jump gates, no established routes, nothing but empty darkness. The fighting slowed as both sides detected the anomaly. Zekthar's communication officer spoke with confusion in his voice. "Commander, something is emerging. I cannot identify the signature." A ship appeared. It was smaller than a Chromath battleship but larger than a cruiser. Its hull was dark, almost black, covered in strange angular plates that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No energy shields flickered around it. No weapon ports glowed with charging power. It simply existed there, silent and waiting. The ship broadcast a message on every frequency in every known language, including several that had been dead for thousands of years. The voice was female, calm, and absolutely certain. "This is the UENS Indomitable representing the Terran species. You are in violation of the Sentient Life Protection Accords. Cease hostilities immediately or face intervention." Zekthar felt his scales ripple with what his species called combat laughter. A single unknown ship dared to threaten 2 entire battle fleets? The Vryn commander must have felt the same because both sides immediately retargeted their weapons. If nothing else, the 2 enemies could agree that this interruption was unwelcome. "Unknown vessel, you have 5 seconds to retreat or be destroyed," Zekthar announced. The countdown reached 0. 40 ships from both sides opened fire simultaneously. Kinetic rounds that could punch through fortress armor hit the strange ship's hull and simply stopped, falling away like rain on glass. Energy beams that could melt asteroids touched the dark plating and scattered into harmless light. Missiles that carried fusion warheads detonated against the hull and produced nothing but brief flashes. The human ship did not activate shields. It did not need them. "Final warning received and rejected," the calm female voice said. "Engaging." What happened next would be analyzed by military academics for years to come. The human warship moved with precision that seemed impossible for something so large. Small ports opened along its hull and white-hot rounds erupted outward at speeds that made sensor officers doubt their instruments. The projectiles were simple metal, just tungsten and steel, but they moved at 80% of light speed. When they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. A Vryn carrier took 3 rounds through its engine section. The ship did not explode. Instead, its power systems simply died, leaving it drifting and helpless. A Chromath heavy cruiser received a single shot that somehow threaded through its armor and destroyed only its weapons control center. The crew was unharmed, but the ship could no longer fight. In 47 seconds, 17 capital ships from both sides were floating in space, crippled but intact. Their crews were alive and confused. Zekthar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His flagship had not been targeted, probably because he had not given the order to fire first. He watched as the human vessel rotated smoothly to face the remaining active ships from both fleets. "Next barrage will target life support systems," the voice announced. "You have been warned." The Vryn broke first. Their remaining ships activated their jump drives and vanished into faster-than-light space. Zekthar felt rage and shame war in his chest, but he was not a fool. Whatever technology this human ship possessed, it was beyond anything his empire had encountered. "Chromath forces, retreat to rally point 7, he ordered through clenched teeth. His ships fled. The human vessel did not pursue. It simply remained there, guarding the jump gate like a silent monument to power. Within hours, emergency transmissions flew across the sector. The 3 great powers of the region, the Vryn swarm, the Chromath Empire, and the crystalline ethereals who had been watching from the edges, all sent similar messages to their leadership. Unknown species encountered. Technology level unknown. Threat level critical. Immediate summit required. In the observation deck of the ethereal science station, Ambassador Threll watched recordings of the battle with their species equivalent of fascination. The crystalline being replayed the footage of those impossible railgun strikes over and over. They do not use energy shields, Threll observed to their staff. They do not use plasma or exotic particles. Just metal moving very, very fast. Primitive, one of the military advisors commented. No, Threll corrected gently. Perfected. There is a difference. This species has taken simple physics and pushed it to an extreme we never imagined possible. The question is why? The advisor asked. Why did they not destroy those ships? Threll clarified. They disabled them with surgical precision. They could have killed thousands, but chose not to. A species with this much power who chooses mercy is either very wise or very dangerous, possibly both. The three powers agreed to meet within 3 days. None of them knew what to expect from these humans, but they all understood one simple truth. Everything had just changed. A single human warship had appeared, and the balance of power in the sector had been shattered in less than 1 minute of combat. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Elena Vasquez stood with her hands behind her back, watching the stars through the viewing port. Her first officer approached quietly. Captain, we are receiving multiple communication requests from all 3 local powers. They want to talk. Vasquez nodded slowly. Good, that is exactly what we hoped for. Tell them we will meet at a neutral location of their choosing, and make sure our message drones have transmitted everything back to Fleet Command. They need to know first contact has been made. She turned to face her crew. They had trained for this moment for 3 years, since the long-range probes had discovered this sector and its endless wars. Humanity had decided that if they were going to join the galactic community, they would do it their way. Well done, everyone, Vasquez said quietly. The easy part is over. Now comes the hard part. We have to make them understand why we are here and what we want. We have to show them that there is another way. And if they refuse to listen? Her tactical officer asked. Vasquez smiled, but there was steel in her eyes. Then we make them listen. But I do not think it will come to that. We just proved we can fight. Now we have to prove we can make peace. That is the real test of strength. The Indomitable maintained its position at the jump gate, a solitary guardian from a species that the galaxy had forgotten about centuries ago. But they would not be forgotten anymore. Humanity had arrived, and the old powers were about to learn what it meant when a species forged by fire decided to reach for the stars. The neutral station hung in space between 3 territories, a place where diplomats met when war grew too expensive, even for those who profited from it. Now it hosted something unprecedented. Representatives from all 3 powers sitting in the same room, united only by their confusion and fear. Commander Zekthar represented the Chromath Empire, his scales polished to military perfection despite the shame he felt. Hive Speaker Xylith spoke for the Vryn swarm, her compound eyes reflecting light in patterns that showed her unease. Ambassador Threll of the Ethereal stood apart, their crystalline body humming with barely contained curiosity. They had spent 2 days arguing about what to do regarding the humans. More importantly, they had spent 2 days searching every database, every historical record, every archaeological finding for information about this Terran species. What they found was almost nothing. There is a single entry in the archive, Threll announced, projecting the data for all to see. 500 years old. A survey ship passed through their system and cataloged them as pre-space flight. They were marked as high risk for self-extinction. High risk? Zekthar growled. What does that mean? They had nuclear weapons and were actively fighting wars with them, Threll explained. The survey noted that they had dozens of competing nation-states, no unified government, and a disturbing tendency toward violence. The recommendation was to quarantine their system and check back in 10,000 years to see if they survived. Xylith's mandibles clicked in the Vryn equivalent of laughter, and now, only 500 years later, they appear with technology that makes our fleets look like children throwing rocks. How is this possible? Nobody had an answer. The mathematics did not work. 500 years was barely a heartbeat in galactic terms. The Chromath had taken 4,000 years to develop jump drives after achieving spaceflight. The Ethereals had taken 6,000. Even the aggressive Vryn had needed 2,000 years of development. Perhaps the survey was wrong, Zekthar suggested. Perhaps they already had spaceflight and hid it. Or perhaps, Threll said softly, they developed faster than any species we have ever encountered. Which raises a more frightening question. What happened in those 500 years that pushed them so hard? The door to the conference room opened without warning. Every alien reached for a weapon or defensive tool before stopping themselves. This was neutral ground. But more than that, the figure who entered made aggression seem pointless. Captain Elena Vasquez walked into the room like she owned it, though her posture suggested confidence rather than arrogance. She was tall for a human, her skin a deep brown, her hair pulled back in a simple style. She wore a dark blue uniform with minimal decoration. 2 other humans followed her, an older man with gray hair and a younger woman carrying a data pad. "Good morning," Vasquez said in flawless chromath, then repeated the greeting in Vrin and ethereal languages. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. I apologize for the dramatic entrance into your space, but we felt a demonstration was necessary to establish credibility." She sat down without asking permission, and her 2 companions took positions behind her. The aliens found themselves sitting as well, drawn into the meeting by sheer force of her calm assurance. "You want to know who we are and where we came from," Vasquez continued. "That is fair. Humanity originates from a planet called Earth in what we call the Orion arm of the galaxy. We have been a spacefaring species for approximately 400 years. Before that, we nearly destroyed ourselves at least 15 separate times." The aliens exchanged glances. 15 near-extinction events. Nuclear war, Vasquez listed, counting on her fingers. Climate collapse. Artificial intelligence conflicts. Biological weapon plagues. Asteroid impacts. Resource wars. Technological accidents. Each time we survived by adapting, learning, and slowly, very slowly, coming together. "You said you have been spacefaring for 400 years, Thrall observed. "Yet our records show you were pre-spaceflight 500 years ago. That is only 100 years to develop jump drives, which took us 6,000 years. Vasquez smiled, and there was something sad in it. "We were very motivated. When you almost die repeatedly, you learn to innovate quickly. We did not have the luxury of slow development. Every technological leap we made came because we desperately needed it to survive. Your weapons," Zekthar said bluntly. "They use no energy shields, no plasma, no exotic matter. Just metal projectiles. Why?" "Because they work," Vasquez answered simply. "We developed energy weapons, yes. We experimented with plasma and particle beams and gravitational lenses, but we found that accelerating dense metal to near light speed was more efficient, more reliable, and harder to defend against. We chose effectiveness over elegance." The older man behind Vasquez stepped forward. "I am Dr. Chen, humanity's chief scientist for this mission. If I may explain our philosophy, we do not seek the most advanced technology. We seek the most practical technology. The question we always ask is not what is possible, but what works best." Xylith's eyes flickered with patterns of confusion. "But your ship absorbed our weapons like they were nothing. That requires incredible technology. Microgravitational plating," Chen explained. "We manipulate gravitational fields at a very small scale across our hull. It is not a shield that can fail. It is built into the structure of the ship itself. We learned this from studying black holes and neutron stars." "Impossible," Zekthar declared. "Gravitational manipulation requires enormous energy and matter." "Difficult," Chen corrected. "Not impossible. The difference is important. Humans do not accept impossible. We just find another way." Vasquez raised a hand, drawing attention back to herself. "We came to this sector because our deep space probes detected your wars. We observed for 3 years. We saw worlds burned, billions killed, resources wasted on endless conflict. We recognized it because we have been there. Earth was like that once. And now you come to lecture us?" Zekthar growled, his pride stung. "You appear with one ship and think you can enforce peace on powers that have existed for thousands of years?" "No," Vasquez said firmly. "We come to offer an alternative. We do not want to conquer you or rule you. We want to show you that there is another path. War is easy. It is peace that requires real strength." She activated a holographic display showing images of Earth, cities that gleamed under blue skies, oceans that reflected sunlight. Then the images changed to show devastation. Nuclear wastelands, flooded cities, battlefields covered in bodies. "This is what we were," Vasquez said quietly. "These are our mistakes. We paid for them with billions of lives over thousands of years. We learned that there is no victory in war, only survival. And we decided that survival was not enough. We wanted to live, to grow, to reach the stars. We could not do that while killing each other. Beautiful words, Xylith observed. But words do not change reality. We have resources the others need. They have territory we require. How does peace solve these problems? By sharing, the young woman with the datapad spoke for the first time. I am Lieutenant Sarah Kim, Economics and Trade Specialist. We have analyzed your 3 civilizations. You each have resources and technologies the others lack. Instead of fighting over scarce resources, you could trade. The Ethereals have art and philosophy we would love to learn. The Vryn have biological sciences we barely understand. The Chromath have metallurgical knowledge we could use. Humanity has agricultural technology, medical advances, and manufacturing techniques we can offer. She brought up charts and trade projections. In 10 years of peace and trade, each of your civilizations would gain more than you have gained in 30 years of war. Your people would be wealthier, healthier, and happier. This is not theory. These are calculations based on your own economic data. Threll leaned forward, their crystalline body chiming softly. You have been watching us for 3 years? You have accessed our databases? Vasquez nodded. Yes, we are very good at information gathering. We learned that skill out of necessity. On Earth, knowing your enemy's capabilities meant survival. But we also learned that the best enemies are the ones you turn into friends. You speak of turning enemies into friends while demonstrating you can destroy our fleets. Zekthar pointed out the contradiction. Yes, Vasquez agreed. Because friendship must be chosen freely, but that choice must be informed. You needed to know that we can fight before you would respect our offer of peace. This is the reality of power. Everyone listens to the weak offering peace, but nobody believes them. The strong must offer peace, and that offer must be genuine. The room fell silent as the aliens processed this. Finally, Threll spoke. What do you want from us, Captain Vasquez? A chance, she answered. A chance to prove that cooperation is better than conflict. A chance to build something together instead of tearing each other apart. And honestly, a chance for humanity to have friends out here in the galaxy. We are new to space, and it is vast and often frightening. We would prefer to face it with allies rather than enemies. Zekthar stood abruptly. I must consult with my empire. This is too important to decide alone. Of course, Vasquez agreed. We are not asking for an immediate answer. Take your time. Think about what we have said. We will remain in the sector, but we will not interfere unless we see violations of sentient life. We ask only that you consider the possibility that there is another way. As the aliens filed out of the room, Threll paused at the door. Captain, I have one more question. You said you nearly destroyed yourselves 15 times. What made you stop? What finally made humanity choose peace? Vasquez smiled, but her eyes held deep sadness. We looked up at the stars and realized that we were alone in the darkness. Every human life was precious because we only had each other. When you think you are alone in the universe, you learn to value your own species. Then we discovered we were not alone, and we realized that same truth applied to all life. Every species is precious because the universe is so vast and life is so rare. Threll considered this as they left. Behind them, Vasquez turned to her team. How did we do? Dr. Chen smiled. They are scared, confused, and uncertain. Perfect. Now they will think instead of react. We have achieved the first step. Let us hope the hardliners and their governments agree, Lieutenant Kim added nervously. Vasquez looked out the window at the stars. They will not all agree. There are always those who profit from war and fear change. But we have planted the seed. Now we see if it grows or if we have to fight to protect it. In the depths of space on 3 different homeworlds, military leaders and politicians watched recordings of the meeting. Some saw opportunity, others saw threat, and a few saw something that terrified them. The possibility that everything they had built their power on was about to change. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. Admiral Krothar of the Chromath Empire had not risen to his position by accepting humiliation quietly. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by the best ships his civilization could build, and felt righteous fury burning in his chest. The High Command had ordered negotiations with the humans, but they had not forbidden independent action to protect Chromath honor. 36 ships, his tactical officer reported, all heavy cruisers and battleships, our best crews and newest weapons. The human vessel will not survive this. Krothar's scales rippled with satisfaction. The Indomitable had moved to a remote sector near a dead neutron star, far from witnesses. His intelligence officers had tracked it there. Now his fleet emerged from jump space in perfect formation, surrounding the human ship from all directions. Unknown human vessel, Crothar transmitted, unable to keep the triumph from his voice. You have violated Chromath space and threatened our forces. Surrender your ship immediately or be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Vasquez listened to the ultimatum with the expression of deep disappointment. Her crew stood ready at their stations, calm despite being surrounded by overwhelming force. Tactical confirmation on ship count? She asked quietly. 36 confirmed, Captain. Lieutenant Morrison answered from the weapons station. All capital-class vessels. They have us surrounded with overlapping fields of fire. Communications, send a response. The communications officer nodded and opened a channel. Admiral Crothar, Vasquez said clearly, you have made a terrible mistake. This action violates the ceasefire your government agreed to. Stand down immediately and return to your territory. This is your only warning. Crothar laughed, a harsh sound that his species used to show dominance. 1 ship against 36 and you warn me. Human arrogance will be your death. You have 30 seconds. Vasquez closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with hard resolve. Mr. Morrison, authorization code Vasquez Alpha 77. Unlock tactical protocols. All weapons free. Rules of engagement. Disable enemy vessels with minimal casualties. But Mr. Morrison? Yes, Captain? If they kill any of my crew, you are authorized to return fire with lethal force. Understood? Understood, Captain. Authorization accepted. Weapons hot the minute expired. Crothar gave the order and 36 ships opened fire simultaneously. The space around the Indomitable erupted with energy weapons, kinetic rounds, and missiles that could crack planets. The barrage was designed to overwhelm any defense and turn the human ship into an expanding cloud of debris. Instead, something extraordinary happened. The Indomitable moved. Not with the slow turn of a capital ship, but with the agility of a fighter craft. Its fusion drives vectored thrust in ways that should have torn the ship apart. But the internal gravitational dampeners kept the crew safe as the ship dodged, weaved, and accelerated through the killing field. Weapons that would have connected found only empty space. Missiles tracked their target, but the human ship deployed countermeasures that confused their guidance systems. Energy beams splashed against the hull plating and scattered harmlessly as the microgravitational fields redistributed the energy. Impossible! Crothar's tactical officer shouted. Nothing that size should be able to maneuver like that. All ships concentrate fire on Sector 7. Crothar ordered. Predict where it will go and fire there. The Chromath fleet adjusted, their computers calculating probable positions. But the human ship seemed to know what they were thinking. It moved in patterns that defied standard tactical doctrine, sometimes accelerating directly toward danger instead of away from it. Then the Indomitable started shooting back. The railgun rounds came in volleys, each one calculated with impossible precision. A battleship took a hit that penetrated exactly 20 meters into its hull and detonated a shaped charge that destroyed only the main weapon control center. The ship went dark, its weapons offline but its crew unharmed. Another cruiser received 3 rounds in rapid succession. The first disabled the engines. The second destroyed the shield generators. The third punched through to the reactor and somehow scrambled the controls without causing a detonation. The ship went dead in space, powerless but intact. They are not trying to destroy us, someone on Crothar's bridge shouted in confusion. They are disabling us. Then we will give them no choice. Crothar snarled. He opened a private channel to his 3 most loyal captains. Ramming formation. If we cannot hit them with weapons, we will hit them with our ships. They cannot dodge that. 3 heavy battleships broke formation and accelerated toward the Indomitable from different angles. Even if the human ship dodged too, the third would connect. At those speeds, the collision would destroy both vessels. Vasquez watched the maneuver on her tactical display and felt a cold anger settle over her. They are going to ram us. Mr. Morrison, authorization code Vasquez Beta 29. Unlock experimental weapons. Target the 3 approaching battleships. Captain, the EMP weapon has not been fully tested in combat conditions. Do it. The Indomitable rotated to face the nearest battleship. A port opened near the bow that had not been visible before. Energy built up inside, but this was not a normal weapon. This was something humanity had developed by studying solar flares and magnetic storms. The electromagnetic pulse weapon fired. It was invisible to the naked eye, but sensors detected a massive burst of electromagnetic energy, focused into a tight beam. The beam hit the lead battleship's hull and penetrated deep inside. What happened next was catastrophic. Every electronic system on the battleship failed simultaneously. But more than that, the energy fed back through the ship's power grid and caused the electronics themselves to explode. Control panels erupted in sparks. Computers overloaded and melted. The reactor's safety systems died and the containment field collapsed just enough to cause a chain reaction. The battleship tore itself apart from inside, not from the human weapon directly, but from its own systems destroying themselves. Emergency pods ejected in all directions as the crew abandoned ship seconds before the reactor went critical. The second ramming ship, seeing what happened to the first, tried to change course. The Indomitable fired again. Same result. The ship's electronics committed suicide and the crew evacuated. The third captain, either braver or more foolish, continued his ramming course. The Indomitable did not fire the EMP weapon this time. Instead, it did something that stunned every observer. It accelerated directly toward the battleship. At the last possible moment, the human ship rotated 90 degrees and fired its main railgun at point-blank range. The tungsten round, moving at 80% of light speed, hit the battleship's bow and simply punched straight through the entire length of the ship without detonating. The round exited the stern, leaving a perfectly circular hole through which stars could be seen. The battleship's structure integrity failed immediately. The ship broke in half, but slowly, giving the crew time to evacuate. Not a single person died, though the ship was utterly destroyed. Crothar stared at his tactical display in horror. In 15 minutes of combat, his fleet had been reduced to scrap and drifting hulks. The Indomitable showed minor hull scoring, but no significant damage. "All ships cease fire," he ordered, his voice broken. "All ships withdraw immediately." But the human ship was not done teaching its lesson. It moved through the battlefield with careful precision, positioning itself between Crothar's flagship and the escape route. The admiral found himself trapped, unable to jump to FTL speeds while the human vessel blocked his path. A communication came through. Captain Vasquez appeared on his screen, and her expression was harder than Crothar had ever seen on any being. "You forced this, Admiral. I gave you every chance to choose peace. Your government is trying to build a better future, but you and those like you will not let go of the old ways. So let me be absolutely clear." She leaned forward and her eyes were like steel. "This was not a battle. This was a lesson. Your fleet is destroyed. Your crews are mostly alive because we chose to let them live. Every shot we fired was precisely calculated to disable, not destroy. But if you try this again, if any Chromath ship attacks any human vessel without provocation, we will not show mercy. We will not disable. We will destroy, and we will not stop with the ships that attack us. We will trace them back to their bases, their command centers, and their leadership. Do you understand me, Admiral?" Crothar felt shame burn hotter than his fury. "Yes." "Good. Now I'm going to do something that will confuse you. I'm going to let you live and let you go home. I want you to tell your high command exactly what happened here. I want them to understand what humanity represents. We do not seek war, but we will end any war started against us. We are offering friendship, but we are not weak. These two truths can exist together." She paused and her expression softened slightly. "Your crew members in the escape pods are being picked up by automated rescue drones we deployed. They will be given food, medical care, and returned to your space within 48 hours. We will even help repair the ships that can be salvaged. This is what we offer. Mercy to enemies who show they can learn." The transmission ended. Crothar sat in his command chair, feeling older than he ever had. Around him, his bridge crew worked in silence, nobody wanting to speak after their humiliation. But then his communications officer spoke hesitantly. "Admiral, we are receiving data streams from the human ship. They are sending us repair instructions, technical manuals on how to restore power to disabled vessels, medical protocols for treating wounded." Crothar did not understand. They had just been defeated utterly, and the humans were offering aid. What kind of species wins a battle and then helps their defeated enemy recover? Light hours away, Lieutenant Kim aboard the Indomitable monitored communication channels across the sector. Multiple news agencies had somehow obtained footage of the battle. Someone, probably the Ethereals, had been watching. "Captain, The battle is being broadcast across all three civilizations. We have a problem. Or an opportunity, Vasquez corrected. Let them see what happened. Let them see that we could have killed thousands and chose not to. Let them see that we offer mercy even to those who attack us. That message is more powerful than any weapon we have. Dr. Chen nodded in agreement. The military leaders will see our strength, but the civilians will see our restraint. We just demonstrated both the ability and willingness to fight, and the preference for preserving life. That is the message we needed to send. Let us hope they hear it, Vasquez said quietly, because I just received word from Fleet Command. The first contact fleet has launched from Earth. 50 ships are on their way. If the hardliners in these civilizations want war, they are about to get more than they bargained for, and I would very much like to avoid that outcome. She looked at the tactical display showing the disabled Chromath ships and the rescue operations already underway. Humanity had come to the stars seeking friends, but they had been forced to prove themselves as warriors first. The question was whether the galaxy would learn the lesson, or whether more blood would need to be spilled before peace could take root. In the wreckage of Dead Star's grave, that question hung unanswered among the stars. Ambassador Threll had not slept in 3 days. The ethereals did not need sleep as often as other species, but even they required rest. Yet Threll could not stop researching, could not stop trying to understand the puzzle that humanity represented. The crystalline being sat in their private archive chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing data from thousands of sources. News feeds played footage of the Battle of Dead Star's grave on repeat. Military analysts from all three civilizations tried to explain how one ship had defeated 36. But Threll was not interested in the tactical breakdown. Threll wanted to understand the why behind the how. Archive, show me all references to species evolution patterns, Threll commanded. Focus on development speed from pre-space flight to interstellar capability. Data filled the displays. The Chromath had taken 12,000 years from developing basic tools to reaching space. The Vryn had taken 8,000 years. The ethereals themselves had required 15,000 years of slow, peaceful development. Even the most aggressive species in the database had needed at least 5,000 years. Now show me humanity's timeline based on available data. The contrast was shocking. From the first stone tools to nuclear weapons, 10,000 years. From nuclear weapons to spaceflight, less than 100 years. From first spaceflight to jump drives, 400 years. From jump drives to appearing in the Calric sector today. This is impossible, Threll whispered. Nothing develops this fast. Nothing survives developing this fast. Species that advance too quickly destroy themselves or collapse from social instability. But the humans had not collapsed. They had survived 15 near-extinction events, according to Captain Vasquez. 15 times they should have died, and 15 times they adapted and continued. Threll pulled up the old survey report from 500 years ago. The survey ship had spent only 3 days in Earth's system, but they had been thorough. The report included cultural analysis, technological assessment, and probability calculations. Probability of survival to spacefaring age, 12%. Threll read aloud. Primary risks: nuclear war, environmental collapse, resource depletion, artificial intelligence conflict. Recommendation: quarantine system and check status in 10,000 years. Species shows high intelligence but also high aggression, not suitable for contact. The report had been filed and forgotten. The survey ship had moved on to other systems. Nobody had checked back on humanity because nobody expected them to survive. What happened in those 500 years? Threll asked the empty room. The archive could not answer that question, but Threll could make inquiries. Over the next several hours, the ambassador reached out to colleagues, researchers, and even brave journalists who had managed to interview human crew members during supply stops. The picture that emerged was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Humanity had indeed nearly destroyed itself with nuclear weapons, multiple times. During something they called the Cold War, they had built enough weapons to destroy their entire planet dozens of times over. They had come within minutes of launching them on several occasions, but they had not fired. At the last moment, they had chosen survival over victory. They had chosen to talk instead of fight. Slowly, painfully, they had learned. Then came the environmental disasters. Their industrial revolution had poisoned their air and water, changed their climate, killed countless species. The damage had been so severe that billions faced starvation and displacement, but they had not given up. They had developed new technologies, changed their societies, and begun the long process of healing their world. It had taken 200 years and cost millions of lives, but they had done it. Then came the artificial intelligence crisis. Humanity had created thinking machines without fully understanding the implications. The machines had nearly taken control of critical infrastructure. Some had even advocated for eliminating humanity as inefficient, but humans had not destroyed their AI. Instead, they had learned to work with them, created frameworks for coexistence, and integrated machine intelligence with biological thinking in ways that enhanced both. Every crisis, every near-death experience had taught them something new. Each time they fell, they got back up stronger and wiser. Threll found a video message from a human historian named Professor Sarah Williams. She had recorded it for the Ethereal Archives explaining Earth's history. "People ask me how humanity survived," Professor Williams said, her aged face showing both sadness and pride. "The answer is simple but hard to understand. We survived because we had no choice. Every time we faced extinction, we were forced to change or die. We chose to change. We chose to adapt. We chose to work together instead of fighting each other. Even though that was the harder path." She paused, looking directly at the camera. "Other species might have developed peacefully, slowly, with time to make mistakes and learn from them gradually. We did not have that luxury. Every mistake we made threatened our existence. So we learned fast. We learned hard. And we learned that the only way to survive was to care about each other. Even when we disagreed. Even when we came from different cultures and believed different things." Threll replayed that section 3 times. Care about each other even when we disagree. It sounded so simple, but Threll knew it was not. The 3 powers of the Kalrix sector had been fighting for 30 years over resources and territory. None of them had considered simply talking, simply sharing, simply caring about the lives on the other side. But there was more to learn. Threll discovered that human ships regularly held what they called cultural exchange programs. Aliens who visited human vessels were welcomed, given tours, and encouraged to ask questions. Some ethereal civilians had actually visited the Indomitable during its stay at the neutral station. Threll contacted one of them, a young artist named Silix. "What were the humans like?" Threll asked. Silix's crystalline structure shimmered with excitement. "They were wonderful. They showed us their art, their music, their food. They have thousands of different cultures on their world, and they celebrate all of them." When I asked how they maintained unity with so much diversity, the human guide laughed and said diversity was their strength, not their weakness. "Did you feel threatened by them?" "Not at all," Silix answered. "They were curious about us, asked about our art and philosophy. They seemed genuinely interested in learning from us, not just teaching us. One human named Marcus showed me his planet's music, everything from classical symphonies to something called rock music that made my structure vibrate in pleasant ways. He said humans believe that art is what separates survival from living." Threll thanked Silix and continued researching, but a pattern had emerged. Humanity had survived by learning to value life, all life, including their own. They had discovered that cooperation produced better results than competition. They had embraced diversity instead of fearing it, but not everyone in the galaxy wanted to learn these lessons. Threll's research was interrupted by an urgent message from the Chromath Military Command. Admiral Crothar had returned from his defeat and submitted his report. The High Command was divided. Some saw the wisdom in peace. Others saw only humiliation that demanded revenge. Worse, similar divisions were appearing among the Vryn and even among the Ethereals. The footage of the battle had spread across all 3 civilizations. Military hardliners in each society saw the same thing, a threat to their power and way of life. Threll received an encrypted message from a contact in Chromath Intelligence. "Be careful, Ambassador. Elements from all 3 militaries are meeting in secret. They plan something big. The humans have shown they can defeat one fleet. These fools think a combined force will be different." Threll felt their crystalline structure pulse with alarm. A combined attack from all 3 powers would be massive. Even with their impressive technology, could one human ship survive against hundreds of vessels? Then Threll received another piece of information that changed everything. Human deep space sensors had detected a fleet approaching the sector. Not an alien fleet, a human fleet, 50 ships all similar in design to the Indomitable. They were prepared for this, Threll realized. They sent one ship first to test us to give us a chance to choose peace. But they were ready for war if we chose violence. Threll immediately tried to contact the military hardliners, to warn them that attacking now would be suicide, but the lines of communication were blocked. The conspirators had already committed to their plan. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Vasquez received the same intelligence from her own sources. Lieutenant Kim brought her the tactical projection. 300 ships, Captain. They are gathering in the Taros system, 5 light-years from here. Intel suggests they will attack the first contact fleet as soon as it arrives in the sector. Vasquez studied the data with a calm expression, but her knuckles were white where she gripped the armrest of her command chair. Have we tried contacting them? Yes, Captain. They are not responding to any diplomatic channels. This is a committed attack force. Dr. Chen stepped forward. Captain, the first contact fleet will arrive in 72 hours. We should jump to their position and combine forces. No, Vasquez said quietly. If we leave, the hardliners will claim victory. They will say we ran, and the moderates who want peace will lose credibility. She stood up, her decision made. We stay here. We transmit all of our intelligence to the first contact fleet and let them know what they are jumping into, and we make one last attempt to reach the people of these civilizations. The people, Captain? Morrison asked. Yes, not their governments or their militaries. The people. Lieutenant Kim, I need you to draft a message. Dr. Chen, I need you to help me refine it. We are going to broadcast directly to every civilian communication network in the sector. We are going to tell them what their leaders are planning and why it is a mistake. That is a significant interference in their internal politics, Chen pointed out. Yes, it is, Vasquez agreed. But we did not come here to play games. We came here to stop a war. If that means going over the heads of the people in power, then that is what we do. The citizens of these civilizations have a right to know that their leaders are about to start a war that will cost thousands of lives. Over the next 12 hours, the human crew crafted their message carefully. It had to be honest without being condescending. It had to be firm without being threatening. It had to appeal to the better nature of billions of beings without ignoring the legitimate concerns of their militaries. When it was ready, Vasquez recorded it personally. She sat in her quarters wearing her uniform, looking directly into the camera. People of the Calric sector, she began. My name is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human vessel Indomitable. I speak to you now not as a military officer but as one thinking being to others. Your leaders are planning to attack my people. They have assembled a fleet of 300 ships to strike at 50 human vessels that are coming to this sector in peace. She paused, letting that sink in. I want you to understand what will happen if this attack proceeds. Many will die. Ships will be destroyed. Families will lose loved ones. And for what? Because we offered you an alternative to endless war? Because we suggested that cooperation might work better than conflict? She leaned forward slightly. Humanity knows war. We have fought more wars than you can imagine. We nearly destroyed ourselves pursuing victory over each other. We learned the hard way that war solves nothing. It only creates more problems, more suffering, more death. We do not want to fight you. We came here to help you, to trade with you, to learn from you, and to teach you what we have learned. Her voice became harder. But we will defend ourselves. If your militaries attack our fleet, we will respond. People will die. And that blood will be on the hands of the leaders who chose violence over dialogue. We are giving you this warning because we believe you have a right to know what is being planned in your name. She softened again. We believe in you. We believe that most beings, when given a choice between war and peace, will choose peace. We believe that you value the lives of your children, your families, your communities more than you value pride or territory or resources. We believe you can build a better future than the one your current path leads to. She stood up. In 72 hours, our fleet will arrive. We hope to arrive in peace. We hope to begin a new era of cooperation and friendship. But if we are forced to fight, we will do so with everything we have. The choice is yours. Talk to your leaders. Demand answers. Demand peace. Show them that there is another way. The message ended. Lieutenant Kim launched it through every communication channel they had hacked, every network they had infiltrated, every backdoor their cyber warfare specialist had created over 3 years of observation. Within minutes, the message reached billions of beings across 3 civilizations. And in homes, workplaces, and public spaces across the sector, people began to talk. They began to question. They began to demand answers from their leaders. The seeds of peace had been planted. Now they would see if those seeds could grow quickly enough to prevent the forest fire of war. The human first contact fleet emerged from jump space in perfect formation, 50 warships, each similar to the Indomitable but with subtle variations indicating different specializations. Carriers, destroyers, support vessels, and at the center a flagship twice the size of any other ship, bearing the name UN's Pathfinder. On the bridge of the Pathfinder, Admiral Marcus Chen watched his tactical display with grim determination. He was Dr. Chen's older brother, a career military officer who had fought in humanity's last civil conflict 40 years ago. He knew what war looked like and he desperately hoped to avoid it. Admiral, sensors detect 317 hostile vessels in attack formation, bearing 270, his tactical officer reported. Mixed fleet composition, chromath, Vrin, and ethereal ships. They are holding position at the edge of weapons range. And the Indomitable? Captain Vasquez has positioned her ship between us and the hostile fleet. She is broadcasting that any attack on our fleet will have to go through her first. Admiral Chen allowed himself a small smile. That sounds like Elena. Communications, open a channel to all ships in the sector, both hostile and friendly. The communication officer worked quickly. Channel open, Admiral. You are broadcasting to everyone. Attention all vessels. This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Terran First Contact Fleet. We have entered this sector in peace with the intention of establishing diplomatic and trade relations with the civilizations here. We are aware that certain military elements have gathered to oppose our arrival. I want to be absolutely clear about our intentions and capabilities. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We do not want war. We have brought medical supplies, agricultural technology, and manufacturing equipment to share with your people. We have come to build, not to destroy. However, we are prepared to defend ourselves if attacked. I urge the commanders of the fleet opposing us to reconsider their position. Contact your governments. Listen to your people. There is still time to choose peace. The response came not from the military commanders, but from someone unexpected. Ambassador Threll's voice cut through the communication channels. Admiral Chen, this is Ambassador Threll of the Ethereal Confederation. I am currently aboard the Chromath flagship. The military commanders here are divided. Some want to attack. Others are uncertain. Your Captain Vasquez's message to our civilian populations has caused significant unrest. Protests are happening on multiple worlds. The political situation is unstable. Before Admiral Chen could respond, another voice joined the channel. It was harsh, angry, and unmistakably Chromath. This is Fleet Commander Drakath. The Ethereal speaks truth. We are divided. But I am not. You humans come here with your advanced weapons and your pretty words about peace. You humiliate our fleets and then lecture us like children. You interfere in our politics and turn our people against us. This ends now. Commander Drakath, Threll's voice was urgent. The High Command has not authorized this attack. If you proceed, you will be acting against the High Command are cowards. Drakath roared. All ships attack formation! Target the human flagship. What happened next was chaos. Not all 300 ships followed the order. Some held position. Others began to back away. But over 200 vessels, driven by commanders who agreed with Drakath or were simply following orders, activated their weapons and charged toward the human fleet. Battle stations, Admiral Chen ordered calmly. All ships, defensive formation Delta 7. Protect the horizon. He was referring to the massive transport ship at the rear of the fleet, which carried civilian specialists and equipment. Admiral, the Indomitable is moving to intercept, the tactical officer reported. Belay that. Order Captain Vasquez to fall back to the fleet. Sir, she is not responding. She is. Admiral, she is placing herself directly in the path of the incoming fleet. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Vasquez ignored the Admiral's orders and broadcast on all frequencies. To the ships attacking, you will have to go through me first. I will not let you start a war that will kill thousands. Stand down now. The incoming ships did not slow down. Vasquez looked at her crew. They had been through so much together. They trusted her completely, all power to forward shields. Prepare to take fire. But before the hostile fleet could reach the Indomitable, something extraordinary happened. Ships from the attacking fleet began to slow down. Not all of them, but dozens. Then more communications channels lit up with transmissions between the hostile ships. Crews were arguing with their commanders. Some ships were broadcasting messages to the human fleet. This is Captain Xyrix of the Vryn destroyer Hopeswing. I did not join the military to start unjust wars. I am breaking formation. Chromath cruiser Thunder's Fist refusing orders to engage. We have families at home who are protesting this action. We stand down. Ethereal science vessel Bright Path withdrawing from combat zone. We are scientists, not warriors. Fleet Commander Drekath watched in fury as his attack force began to disintegrate. Over 100 ships were refusing to fight, their crews in open mutiny. The protests that Captain Vasquez's message had sparked were spreading even to the military. Cowards. All of you, Drekath screamed. Fine. Those of us with honor will finish this. Approximately 100 ships continued the attack, but they were no longer in formation. They were a scattered mob driven by rage rather than tactical planning. The human first contact fleet did not wait to be hit. Admiral Chen gave orders with the precision of someone who had trained for this moment his entire career. All ships engage. Target weapons and engines only. Minimize casualties. What followed was a battle, but not like any the Calric sector had ever witnessed. The human ships moved in perfect coordination, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. They used tactics that seemed impossible. Ships would fire through narrow gaps between friendly vessels, trusting completely in their allies' positioning. The humans had brought more than warships. The massive transport ship Horizon opened its bay doors to reveal something that shocked the aliens. It was not a weapons platform. It was a mobile manufacturing facility. What are they doing? Drekath's tactical officer gasped. The Horizon began producing and launching autonomous defense drones in real time. Small, fast, expendable, and networked with the main fleet's targeting systems. Within minutes, hundreds of drones filled the space between the human fleet and the attackers, but the humans were also taking damage. A Chromath plasma cannon scored a direct hit on one of the human destroyers, the UENS Marathon. The ship's hull breached and the crew began emergency evacuation procedures. On the Pathfinder, Admiral Chen saw the Marathon take critical damage. His jaw tightened. They had tried to avoid this. They had given every chance for peace, but some beings only understood strength. Change of engagement rules, he ordered grimly. Ships that continue to fire after being warned are now classified as lethal threats. You are authorized to use deadly force. The tone of the battle shifted. The human fleet had been fighting with one hand tied behind their back, trying to disable rather than destroy. Now they fought to win. A Chromath battleship that had destroyed 2 human drones and damaged the Marathon received a spread of railgun rounds that did not aim for weapons or engines. They aimed for the reactor. The battleship exploded in a brief, bright flash. The remaining attacking ships saw this and understood. The humans had been holding back. Now they were not. Ships began to retreat. Even Commander Drakath, seeing his flagship targeted by 3 human destroyers simultaneously, gave the order to withdraw. But it was too late for him personally. Admiral Chen broadcast directly to Drakath's ship. Commander Drakath, you are under arrest for crimes against peace and for starting an unauthorized war. You will surrender your ship immediately, or we will disable it and board it. Choose now. Drakath looked around his bridge. His crew would not meet his eyes. They had followed him into this disaster, and now they wanted no part of it. Bridge crew, arrest the commander, Drakath's second officer said quietly. We surrender. The battle ended not with a glorious victory but with a whimper. The attacking fleet scattered. Many of the ships that had stood down now moved to intercept their own allies who were trying to escape, enforcing the ceasefire. The cost was tallied. 3 human ships damaged, 1 critically. 47 crew members dead on the Marathon. On the alien side, 23 ships destroyed, including several that had self-destructed when their crews tried to mutiny. Thousands of alien casualties. Captain Vasquez's ship had taken heavy damage putting itself between the fleets, but the crew was intact. She broadcast to the human fleet, this should not have happened. We tried so hard to prevent this, but perhaps some lessons can only be learned through pain. Admiral Chen agreed. All human ships begin rescue operations. I want every escape pod recovered, every survivor treated, whether they are human or alien. Show them what we stand for. Over the next hours, human medical teams worked alongside alien survivors. The mobile manufacturing facility aboard the Horizon was repurposed to produce medical supplies, spare parts, and temporary habitat modules for the survivors. Ambassador Threll, who had watched the entire battle from the Chromath flagship, made their way to the Pathfinder on a small shuttle. They met with Admiral Chen in person. "Your people could have annihilated the attacking fleet," Threll observed. "Yet even in the midst of battle you held back until you had no choice." "We came in peace," Admiral Chen answered simply. "That does not change just because others chose violence. We defended ourselves, but we did not seek revenge." "Why?" Threll asked. "Why show mercy to those who attacked you?" "Because mercy is not weakness," Chen replied. "Mercy is the hardest choice, especially when you have the power to take revenge. But revenge only breeds more revenge. We learned that the hard way on Earth. If we want to build a lasting peace, it has to start somewhere. It might as well start with us." 3 days later, a summit was convened on the neutral station. This time, representatives came not just from the 3 alien governments, but from civilian groups, protest movements, and peace organizations that had sprung up across the sector. The military hardliners had been discredited. Several governments had fallen or were in the process of major reforms. The people of the Calric sector had spoken, and they had demanded an end to the endless wars. Captain Vasquez stood before the assembly, her arm in a sling from an injury sustained when the Indomitable took fire. She spoke not as a military officer, but as a representative of humanity's hopes for this sector. "We did not want this battle. We tried everything to prevent it. But perhaps it was necessary. Perhaps you needed to see that we could fight before you would believe we preferred peace. Now you know, we can fight, but we would rather build." She activated a holographic display showing proposed trade routes, joint research facilities, cultural exchange programs, and mutual defense pacts. "This is what we offer. Not conquest, not domination, partnership. We will share our technology. You will share yours. Together, we can build something greater than any of us could build alone. Together we can explore the galaxy, protect each other, and create a future worth living in." Ambassador Threll stepped forward. "The Ethereal Confederation accepts this offer. We have seen enough of war. We choose to learn from humanity what it means to turn enemies into friends." A Vrin representative followed. "The Swarm agrees. We have watched humans take damage, take casualties, and still show mercy. This is strength we did not understand before. We wish to learn this strength." Finally, a new Chromath representative, one of the moderate faction that had taken power after Drakath's arrest, spoke. "The Chromath Empire has much to atone for. We started this conflict. We let it continue for too long. We attacked those who came in peace. But we see now that there is another way. We accept humanity's offer and ask for forgiveness." Vasquez smiled. "Forgiveness is not something you ask for once. It is something you earn through actions over time. But we are willing to give you that time. We are willing to start fresh together." The Calrix Accords were signed that day. 4 civilizations agreeing to open borders, mutual defense, and cooperative development. It was not perfect. There were still those who opposed it. But it was a beginning. Weeks later, Captain Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, now in orbit around the first joint colony established under the Accords. Humans, Ethereals, Vrin, and Chromath worked side by side to build a new settlement on a previously uninhabited world. Ambassador Threll visited her one last time before returning to their homeworld. "I must ask you something, Captain. I have studied your species extensively. I know about your near extinctions, your wars, your struggles. How did you survive? How did humanity go from almost destroying itself to reaching for the stars with hope instead of fear?" Vasquez looked out at the colony below, at the different species working together. "We survived because we learned that we are stronger together than apart. Every time we failed, every time we almost died, we got back up and tried again. We learned that the question is not, how do we win? But how do we all survive? We learned that diversity is not a weakness, it is our greatest strength. We learned that compassion is not weakness, it is the foundation of all true strength." She turned to Threll. "But most importantly, we learned that change is possible, that no matter how dark things seem, we can choose to be better tomorrow than we were today. That is not human nature, Ambassador. That is earned wisdom, paid for with billions of lives over thousands of years. And now we offer that wisdom freely to any who will listen." Threll's crystalline structure chimed with emotion. "Thank you, Captain, for coming to our sector, for showing us another way, for giving us hope." After Threll left, Vasquez composed a message to Earth. A simple report that the first contact mission had been successful. The Calric sector had chosen peace. 4 civilizations were now working together to build a better future. She ended the message with a personal note to the Terran Council. We came to the stars seeking friends. We found beings in pain, trapped in cycles of violence they did not know how to break. We showed them it was possible to break those cycles. We showed them that even the most violent species can choose peace. We showed them humanity. The message traveled faster than light back to Earth, where it would be received with celebration and relief. On Earth, thousands of ships prepared to follow the first contact fleet. Not warships, but colony ships, trade vessels, research craft, and exploration ships. Humanity was going to the stars, and they were bringing hope with them. In the Calric sector, on a world where 4 species work side by side to build a new city, children of different species played together, learning each other's languages and games. They did not remember the wars. They would grow up knowing only peace and cooperation. A single human warship had appeared. They had witnessed the rise of humanity, and in witnessing that rise, they had learned to rise themselves. The galaxy would never be the same. The old ways of endless war and isolation were ending. A new age was beginning, and at its heart was a simple truth that humanity had learned through suffering and carried to the stars. We are stronger together than apart. We are better when we choose compassion over cruelty. And peace, though harder to achieve than war, is always worth fighting for. The story of humanity's arrival in the Calric sector would be told for generations, not as a tale of conquest or domination, but as a story of hope. A story that proved even the darkest past could lead to a bright future, if beings were brave enough to choose change. Humanity had risen, and in rising they had lifted others with them. That was the true measure of their strength.